Bitcoin and blockchain technology has captured the world's attention with its promise to fundamentally change the way that business is done across all industries. But where there is so much promise, there is an equal amount of confusion about the technology and crypto instruments. In December 2017, the Bitcoin price was at an all-time high of $19,783. The world's media went crazy, saying that Bitcoin's price had gone parabolic. And despite the warnings of savvy investors, ordinary people invested into Bitcoin without knowing the full extent of the risks involved. People took out credit cards, second mortgages, and personal loans to get into the cryptocurrency gold rush. But just a few short months later, over $600 billion was wiped off the value of cryptocurrencies, and the large majority of people lost everything. But some investors became millionaires literally overnight, and in the process became financially free for the rest of their lives. But are cryptocurrencies the answer to financial independence for a few or for many? To get the answer, we have launched a new series called Crypto Kungfu, which will take an investigative look at the current news, risks, and opportunities in the cryptocurrency space and give you access to the world's leading crypto experts right here on the Matt Brown Show. Listen closely to our $1,000 trading challenge, where we will ask these experts to trade with our money to prove whether the world of crypto, like Bitcoin, really do live up to the hype. Hey there guys, and welcome back to our Crypto Kungfu series right here on the Matt Brown Show. So this is our third episode, and it's bound to be an exciting one as I am joined by serial entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Onchain Capital, and the host and producer of Crypto Trader CNBC, Ran Neu-Ner, live from New York. So today, we blow open the Pandora's box of what is happening in the world of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. You know, it is said that we are living in a financial revolution brought about by crypto and Bitcoin, and it has become part of a global financial infrastructure. And I couldn't agree more, especially since everyone and their cousin are creating their own currencies these days. So join Ran and I as we dig into some juicy topics as follows: the state of government-driven currencies, the use cases of blockchain in military operations, that's a very interesting one, and the role that Bitcoin volatility plays in investing. So listen closely to Ran's views on Craig Wright's multi-billion-dollar legal battle, and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be on the losing end of a $10 billion lawsuit. So let's get into it. Without further ado, enter Ran Neu-Ner. And we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of Crypto Kungfu, and with me on the line, direct and live from New York, is none other than the man himself, Ran Neu-Ner, the founder and CEO of Onchain Capital, and as many of you will know, the host of the first and only televised cryptocurrency show, Crypto Trader on CNBC. Ran, welcome to Crypto Kungfu, pal.
Thank you, buddy. Nice to have you back. Nice to be back and nice to see you again.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. Hey, I'm like reconnecting with the crypto cats. It's been pretty cool.
We love you guys because as crypto starts to move up, everybody wants to reconnect with the crypto cats. We had a very long, dark winter where crypto prices were going down and no one wanted to talk to us.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't an exciting time, as you say, right?
Yeah.
So
I think the bear market was a tough time, yeah.
It was a very tough time. Geez, a lot of people lost a lot of money here, and that's kind of really why I'm kind of revisiting the crypto space again, you know, on the Matt Brown Show. Let's talk about, the last 18 months. What's the headline here around, Bitcoin? Obviously, we know the price in sort of December 2017 was at about $19,700, and it's tanked, and then it's ran again, and it's kind of trading sideways at the moment. Just the headline right now, what do we need to know over the last 18 months? What's gone down?
Well, I think what you need to know is that you're looking at it quite with the wrong eyes, and I'll explain to you what I mean. You mentioned 2017 and 2018, and then you're taking Bitcoin really at the top of its cycle. But remember that Bitcoin 10 years ago was launched at under a cent, and today it's trading at over $10,000. And if you take all the forks, which is actually free coins that you would have got, it's probably trading at about 12 or 13 or maybe even $14,000. Now, another interesting way to look at it is that if you've bought Bitcoin any time in its existing, barring the 2 months or 3 months in 2017 and 2018, you're in the money. So you're talking about a 10-year-old asset And if you bought it at any time other than 3 or 4 months in 2017 and 2018, you're well in the money. But let's forget about the money part of it, because, whereas that's quite cool, it's not the important part of it. The important part of it is that we're undergoing a financial revolution. And every time, if you would have spoken to me 2 or 3 years ago, there were these doubts about whether Bitcoin would be adopted and whether Bitcoin would make it. But if we look today, Bitcoin is fast becoming, or has become, part of the global financial infrastructure of the world. And it's becoming an alternative financial infrastructure for people who want to hedge themselves against government-driven currencies. Now, if you've been following the world markets, you know very well that government currencies may be in a little bit of trouble. They're talking about things like negative interest rates. They're talking about printing more money and high inflation. And all these things can be avoided using Bitcoin. And more people are seeing this, and the adoption has grown a lot more. I mean, you guys are quite separated, but I spend my days working with companies to get them onto the Bitcoin or the new digital asset blockchain ecosystem. And the uptake that we are seeing, both in terms of money flowing into the ecosystem, but more importantly, in terms of institutions and credible financial companies joining in the ecosystem, that's growing every single day. So we're very well, the new financial revolution is very much well underway.
Okay, great. That's a great point of departure for where we're going to go today. And I totally agree with you. I don't see what you see at all. And I think, you being based in New York, having, these conversations literally every week with the who's who of the crypto world, as I say, it's really a privilege to have you on the show today. So I'm going to remind everybody, and Ran hasn't heard about this yet, but we are actually trading with a whopping amount of money. Ran's probably looking at this laughing. This is what Ran wipes his ass with every morning, is $1,000 bills.
I wish.
But in all seriousness, we are in fact asking our guests to trade with real money. So yesterday, Tone Vase asked us to short Bitcoin over a period of a week, which means we now have to reinvest $1,000. So Ran can then run with that, and then we'll report back to you guys about where we netted out after 7 days. So Ran, why we're doing this is just to prove whether you can actually make money and create financial independence trading cryptocurrency today. So we're just having a bit of fun with some skin in the game, and obviously this isn't financial advice. So anyway, moving on to part one, the news. I love these jingles. They're so cool. Hey?
So good.
Can you see my screen, Ran?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. So we're going to cover some news clips, obviously being part one, the news. And so this chap, Craig Wright, came up yesterday. And in fact, this exact thing came up yesterday. And the article is entitled, Craig Wright in Discussions to Settle a Multi-Billion-Dollar Court Case. From my understanding yesterday, and we can dive into what the article is kind of alluding to here, but I'm sure you know what this is all about. So I'm not going to try and balls this up. So why don't you just explain to us, what is this lawsuit all about? What is it involving? And is he really on the line for $10 billion?
So this is a very long and complicated lawsuit. There is a guy whose name is Craig Wright, who claims that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. For many years, he's been claiming that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, and he has been involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem for a very, very, very long time. Now, the community, the Bitcoin community, don't believe that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. And they've kind of said to him, look, if you are indeed Satoshi Nakamoto, we know that Satoshi Nakamoto has a whole lot of Bitcoin. Why don't you move some of those Bitcoin and prove to us that you've got the keys to unlock those Bitcoin? Now, this specific case is around a guy called Dave Kleinman, who was apparently Craig Wright's partner in their Bitcoin-related activities. And Dave Kleinman died of, I think, some kind of virus or something. And Dave Kleinman's family is now suing Craig Wright for 50% of the Bitcoin, which Craig Wright seems to have. Now, this went to court in Florida. Craig Wright lost this case very badly. As far as I remember, it was almost kicked out of court, where the judge said, what you're saying just sounds so ludicrous. that, we're actually kicking this out of court. And the judge, I think, ruled to give the Kleinman family 50% of the Bitcoin. And since the crypto community don't believe that Craig Wright is actually Satoshi or actually has access to these Bitcoin, he now has to give up 50% of this huge amount of Bitcoin, which he probably doesn't have access to, but which he told the judge that he would have access to soon.
That's hilarious. How do you get access to $10 billion in Bitcoin soon?
So don't quote me exactly on the facts, but as far as I understand, they locked up the keys in such a way that the keys would only be released, I think, sometime next year. And so Craig Wright claims that he's going to get access to the keys sometime next year. It's a very long and complicated story. It is, however, one of the big existential threats to Bitcoin, because Satoshi holds a lot of Bitcoin. Satoshi holds about 1 million Bitcoin. Now, if you think that there's only 21 million Bitcoin that are ever going to be in circulation, and Satoshi owns about 5% of those, if Craig Wright is Satoshi and he has voiced his opinion that he doesn't really like the direction in which Bitcoin is going, then he could sell that on the open market. Now, selling 5% of all Bitcoin on the open market could crash the price. On the other hand, it could be the biggest buying opportunity of Bitcoin in history. So let's watch this one. No one really believes that Craig Wright is Satoshi. I'm following the story for a long time. I have my views. I think let's just see how this plays out.
Yep. Well, let's leave it at that. This one in particular, I thought was quite ironic. So this is on Cointelegraph.com. Basically, the headline here for our listeners is U.S. Army seeks blockchain experts who can trace Bitcoin in real time. And the irony here, and I can see Rand smirking already, but the irony here is that surely Bitcoin should be anonymous. So why is the military looking to trace Bitcoin, quote unquote?
Absolutely not. And this is one of the biggest issues around Bitcoin. Everyone says that Bitcoin is used by criminals to do drug deals and used for a whole lot of illicit activities. But if you think about the medium or the preferred currency of criminals, it's actually this thing called US dollar. And more importantly, it's in cash. And the reason why it's US dollars and cash is because cash is actually really untraceable. If I give you $100 in cash, then it's untraceable. No one can ever prove that. Unlike that, every transaction on the blockchain is logged and it's transparent for everyone to see, which means that if you do an illicit transaction on the blockchain, we can follow that transaction from the time the transaction was done and until even thousands of transactions later when somebody eventually cashes it out. And so what governments are realizing is that, A, they need to arm themselves for this new world where they can use this to trace transactions, but B, that this is actually much easier to trace than cash and probably a much safer option.
Very interesting. What do you think, there's other section to this article about the US government buying a lot of blockchain intelligence companies, analytics firms like Chain Analysis, etc. With your view, obviously being at the epicenter of this whole space, I mean, what's your view on the use case? I love using that word, the use case for blockchain in military applications.
So blockchain is definitely going to be used in many, many military applications, right through from tracing ammunition and logging it on the blockchain so that you can see where ammunition is at all times, so ammunition doesn't get into the wrong hands, that you can see where parts were procured from. That's one use of it. I'm very familiar with Chainalysis. They went through the same accelerator program that we are running blockchain programs with today. And so this is one of the really, really, really amazing companies. What they do is they help people analyze transactions on the blockchain. And so, for example, if I say to you, Matt, where did you get the money from? And you say to me, I don't know. I run a Chainalysis, and Chainalysis will tell me every single step of that money from beginning to end. Now, a lot of banking institutions, what they're doing today is when you deposit money that's related to cryptocurrency, all they do is they run a Chainalysis on it. And they tell you exactly how much money you put in, how much money you made, and the thousands of steps that you did along the way. This is really one of the most incredible companies in the blockchain space. And in an indirect way, we are associated with this company, and there are many others like it. And if you think about it, what we're moving towards is a very transparent world where money laundering is going to become a thing of the past, because you can actually trace every single transaction.
Very interesting. So who's driving this specifically? I mean, is it just governments at the moment? Or because I'm looking at the idea of KYC in financial institutions, institutional banking, etc. Is that where it's going, or what's driving this sort of Chainalysis proposition?
So there's a massive move around the world, as you know, for no more anonymity in money, tax treaties around the whole world, FATCA, and a whole lot of other regulations that want to prevent money laundering and terrorist activities and tax evasion worldwide. The world's becoming a global place, and everyone's starting to work together. Chainalysis is a private company, and there are many other private companies like Chainalysis, their work is to help people, governments, in tracing money. I'll give you a very cool example. I had some people who were pretending to be me on things like Instagram and Facebook, and they were defrauding my user base of millions of dollars. They were pretending to be me. They were sending my user base, they were enticing my user base to send them money, pretending to be me, and my user base did send money, and this was all fraudulent. We use companies like Chainalysis, and to be honest, we're towards the end of an investigation where we actually know exactly who the people are that set up the profiles, and we know where the money's gone. And so these companies are very, very powerful in assisting governments, people, and organizations in tracking where money is going. And eventually, this is going to be an amazing tool to stop things like money laundering.
Okay, cool. So this one came up. Karatbars launches the first ever blockchain-based laptop, and I thought this was an interesting sort of consumer product, in the sense that, and I don't know how much how much the space has moved over the last 18 months since I last covered it. But at the time, 18 months ago, it was all about consumer adoption, and how do you get the man in the street to adopt Bitcoin? And then I saw this and I was like, wow, this is quite interesting. And so this laptop is literally pre-built with a whole bunch of things like mobile wallets, etc., etc., etc. And you can buy this over the counter, it's like a pure play Bitcoin transaction type thing. Anyway, what is going on around? Well, firstly, what do you think about this kind of product? Is this just a vanity case for a couple of people sitting in a small garage somewhere? And two, what is the current state of mass consumer adoption as it relates to the world of crypto?
Okay, so let's answer the first question first. I didn't see this article. I'm not very familiar with the product. What I can say is that a lot of big manufacturers like Apple and Samsung are integrating cryptocurrency into their product offerings. The new Samsung phone has got a crypto integration. I think the iPhone's also got a crypto integration. So what we're seeing is that we know that the phone is the tool that consumers are going to use as their bank account, as their store of value, as their wealth, etc. And as such, all their devices are now becoming crypto friendly. Let's talk about adoption. Adoption is happening very, 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 very quickly. But unfortunately, the crypto experience is still not ready for real mass adoption. There's still things called the private key, which is a very long, complicated key, which is the be-all and end-all of your crypto life. If you lose your private key, or if anyone gets hold of it, they effectively can steal all your money, and they will steal all your money. Consumers have to store it. And that's just one of the many things that is making this crypto world a little bit unusable. We haven't had that browser moment. Like when the internet launched, the internet was nothing until eventually a browser was launched. And when a browser was launched, it made surfing very, 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 very easy. Now, we haven't had that Netscape or that browser moment yet. For people who are financially savvy and in the know, yes, there's a lot that you can do using cryptocurrency. But is it ready for user mass adoption? I think probably within the next 12 to 18 months it will be. There are a lot of initiatives that are going on right now. So I think that now that the hype is over, we need to zoom back and we need to look at, how friendly this space is for consumer adoption. and build it so that it becomes friendly for consumer adoption. This technology can do a lot, but we don't have enough tools to drive this car properly yet. And that's what's so exciting about the ecosystem is we're having fun investing and building in these people that are building these amazing tools that are making this new financial system a reality.
What is this? What is VOBP? So Voice over Blockchain Protocol. Have you come across that before?
Never heard of it. I must confess, I haven't read this article, so I don't know about them. I do know this company called Karatbars. They seem to be doing a whole lot of stuff. Not sure specifically about this one. Also, this piece of news wasn't on my radar, so not sure how relevant it is.
Gotcha. Cool. So there's a lot of talk also in the news. I've seen this same sort of news come out and across a number of different platforms over the last week or so. But it's all around this idea of Bitcoin is less volatile than in the previous quarter, and so Bitcoin's volatility, as it says in the article, is descended to a level only preceded by the low readings in early May. How does one treat it? Firstly, why is Bitcoin volatility an important thing from an investment perspective? And then, should we pay a lot of attention to volatility, or where does one start to shift and pivot one's thinking from an investment perspective?
So volatility is, it depends which way you're looking at it, whether you're looking at it from the one side or from the other side. If you're a trader, you want volatility because that's how you make your money, right? But a lot of the criticism that Bitcoin has got over the years is that it's been too volatile. So people say, oh, why don't you put your money in Bitcoin? Oh, no, it's too volatile for me. Now, Bitcoin for the last couple of months has been stable. But again, I say, let's zoom back. In the beginning of this year, Bitcoin was trading at about $3,500 US. Today, Bitcoin is trading at about $10,200. That's tripled in a year. Now, I'm not sure how many other assets have actually tripled this year. All right, so we've had 2 or 3 months where Bitcoin has hovered around the $10,000 level. I think that's a very short period of time to be celebrating the fact that the volatility has died down. And knowing Bitcoin, hold on tight, because one way or another, this thing's going to start moving either up or down very, very quickly. So I'm not convinced. What causes the volatility? Knowing Bitcoin, hold on tight, because one way or another, this thing's going to start moving either up or down very, very quickly. So I'm not convinced. What causes the volatility? Why Bitcoin was more volatile in the old days was because there was less adoption. Now, naturally, when you have less buyers or less sellers, it means that, in a buying cycle, if you've got less sellers, it means the price goes up very quickly. And in a selling cycle, if you've got less buyers, it means the price goes down very quickly. Now that we have many, many, many more people using Bitcoin, obviously the market's become more efficient and volatility has died down. But that said, it's still a very immature, young asset class, and we can expect more volatility. And, if you're not, Bitcoin as an investment should be a very small percentage of your wealth, unless you have got a very big pair of kahunas, in which case, like me, you can go all in.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that exact thing because you actually tweeted that. I was like, I'm all in on crypto. Are you still all in on crypto? All in?
Yeah, of course. Look, I work in crypto every day. So, I work with young companies and we help them build, we are helping them build out a crypto ecosystem. So by virtue of the fact that all my time every day, 24/7 is spent in the crypto ecosystem. Also I've got a significant amount of my wealth now in crypto. So, I'm all in, but that said, what I encourage everybody to do is to treat this as a very risky asset class. And as such, to diversify accordingly. Only put in what you can lose, put in a very small percentage of your wealth. This is probably one of the more risky asset classes you're ever going to invest in.
Yep. Do you feel that cryptocurrencies and less so blockchain, but the crypto trading space from a consumer perspective has lost a lot of its excitement? How do we rekindle that, do you think?
Well, again, it's funny that the last time we spoke was at the top of the bull market a few times, and everybody was interested. And then the prices went down, and then interest died. Google searches died. I mean, if you go onto your screen and look for Google searches on the word Bitcoin, you'll see that it exactly follows the market, funny enough. And so what we need to understand is that, the average consumer is only here for the price action and for the adrenaline, and very much not for the technology and the underlying thing. And so as prices go up, the quicker they go up, you'll see that the more interest there will be. I know this because I see it on my show. The higher the prices and the more the volatility, the more viewers I get on my show. And in periods like this where the markets are flat, the viewership goes down.
Yeah, it's.
I see you looking at the past 5 years. You'll see that there's going to be a massive peak in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, right there, big
now,
blue line.
I mean, you can't do this now, but if you could overlay a Bitcoin price curve around this, you'd find that the Bitcoin price curve looks exactly the same.
Well, I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that's what was driving the search term and the interest, right?
I always say that my litmus test for the man in the street is CNBC now. If you watch CNBC International, for the entire bull market, all they wanted to talk about was Bitcoin. As the market went down, they had no more talk about Bitcoin. The slots of the show in the Bitcoin shows were gone. The little ticker at the bottom, which has the Bitcoin price, was gone. As soon as Bitcoin went from 3,000 to 10,000, the slot's back, the ticker's back, and Bitcoin's back on every US medium.
Yeah, it's I suppose it's natural, right, from a consumer perspective. Everybody wants to get rich quick, which is also a double-edged sword, right? Which is hence why so many people lost their shirt in that whole
as long as you're not the last bunch at the table, you'll make money.
And that's a difficult thing to do because people are greedy, right? Damn.
Exactly. And usually when the man in the street gets in, it's time for for people who are in the know to get out.
Speaking of being greedy, this one's interesting. Bitcoin not accepted. Burger King's crypto foray short-lived. I don't know if you were following this. I'm sure you would have. But it was a PR stunt from a German branch of Burger King that essentially began to accept Bitcoin on its website and its mobile app. And so essentially you could buy Whoppers using Bitcoin. So from an investment perspective, that is a dumb-ass move. Okay. A Whopper, you know what I mean? Like a Whopper's not going to give you a 20 times return on your money, right?
Let's talk about this. The biggest payment integrators in the world, which are Square and all those guys have all integrated Bitcoin into their offering. So let's start with that.
Okay.
But Bitcoin, as it currently stands, and in my opinion, probably forever, is not supposed to be used as money. It's supposed to be used as a store of value. So you should almost look at it as digital gold instead of digital money. The US regulation and many other countries have similar regulations, so that every time that you sell Bitcoin or use Bitcoin, say, for example, to buy a burger, that's a capital gains event. It's like selling gold. And if you sell gold, that becomes a capital gain event. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a long way to go before Bitcoin ever becomes cash, if it ever does become cash. Right now, I wouldn't be using Bitcoin to pay for your burger, because not only are you paying for your burger with an asset that is appreciating very, very fast, but worse is you have to pay capital gains, which is like crazy.
So essentially you're paying tax twice.
Exactly. Crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. What do you think about these private blockchains? When this article goes on to say, guys, that, you can't use or trade Whopper coin. And essentially in Russia, again, Burger King, this was an actual thing. It was a Whopper coin loyalty program.
On the Waves blockchain, So let's understand, using a token, your own token as a loyalty program, I think is going to become the status quo. I think that airline miles and anything where companies want to issue their own thing are going to be blockchain tokens. Why? A, because the company can limit them. B, because consumers now can see transparently what happens to all the points. And B, because and C, because the coins actually become tradable between one person and another in a very, very simple way. They become almost like programmable money. So that's the future of loyalty programs, is very much going to be blockchain related assets. But does that mean that people are going to pay only using Whopper points? No, you can pay using cash, Bitcoin, or Whopper points. Whopper points should be seen as almost like Absa Rewards or Standard Bank's currency. Sorry, the name escapes me for a second. But
what is it? You count rewards.
You count rewards, exactly. That is what blockchain, those will all be eventually replaced by blockchain assets.
When do you think that's likely to happen, if you were to speculate?
I mean, time-wise, probably within the next 2 to 5 years, it'll start becoming the norm.
Sure. That's interesting, yeah. So the East has come up quite a lot this week. Did you hear about Kim Jong-un's holding his second crypto conference event? Are you going to that?
No, I was invited to the first one. And then when I told them that I want to come and I want to cover the first one, they said, look, we don't actually allow journalists into Korea, and you're welcome to come, but you can't cover it. I haven't yet got my invite for the second one, but I probably will get it.
How many people go to that sort of thing?
Well, you see, it's interesting because you got to ask yourself, why do you go to these conferences? Now, I go to the conferences because I'm looking for interesting companies and interesting people who are driving ecosystems. So, for example, I go to Korea a lot and Japan a lot because there's a lot of companies developing on the blockchain there. When I think about going to North Korea, no one's developing on the blockchain there. So I think what people are basically saying is, do you want to go to a crypto conference where everyone is being imported, including the speakers, and that's happening in a place like North Korea? Is that of any interest to you? To me, yeah, I'd love to go there. I'd love to see what all the hype and all the fuss is about. Also, I'd love to have a few words with Kim Jong-un, but that's probably another conversation for another podcast.
Let's role play. So I'm Kim. Hello. Hi, Ran. What do you say to me? First words. Go for it.
First word, I need to know who cuts your hair because I only want the same thing. Yeah. And the next question I'll ask him is, why did you kill your cousin? I mean, that's not cool.
Okay, time out, dude. That's hilarious, bro. He does have an amazing hairstyle though. It's so perfect. Hey? It's
so perfect all the time, man. I want to have that barber that just cuts it so perfectly.
And it never goes gray.
No, never. No. I mean, yeah. So we're talking about Kim Jong-un, yeah.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay,
but the other interesting story you've got on the screen is China.
Yes.
China is at the central point of a lot of Bitcoin discussions. And I think China is the case in point for why Bitcoin is so amazing. I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, China banned Bitcoin in China. And that day, Bitcoin prices shot up a hell of a lot. Why? Because by banning it, what they did was they created a whole lot more demand for this asset that you now theoretically couldn't buy in China. Ironically, the biggest trading volume in the world today comes from China, even after the ban. So it just shows the power of Bitcoin. Governments cannot stop Bitcoin unless they shut down the internet. It's as simple as that. When they shut down the formal exchanges in China, people started to meet each other in the street and send Bitcoin to each other across phones. So, it just shows that is the power of Bitcoin. It's immutable and it can never, ever be shut down, not by any government in the world, unless they want to close down the internet, which is a little bit impractical at this stage, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. I think we kind of passed that point some time ago. Yeah, if I remember correctly, they shut down some exchange or something to that effect.
They shut down all the exchanges. I mean, if you theoretically, you can't trade on exchange if you are Chinese. But as I said to you, we know that the biggest volume in cryptocurrencies today is Chinese.
Well, also mining, they're the biggest miners as well, right? Or is that also true now, or is that changed?
So I haven't looked at the stats of late. Yes, the biggest manufacturers of mining equipment sit in China. Not only that, China does have cheap cheap electricity, specifically in places like Mongolia, which you're looking at here. Mongolia's price of electricity is close to zero. And to make it even better, Mongolia is cold, which means that you don't have to create air-conditioned or cooled rooms to run these computers. You just open the window and it's freezing cold, and then your machines can run full speed all the time. Yes, it is. But over time, again, the world is becoming more efficient and people are moving to Russia, to Greenland, to Iceland, to Canada, and even to the US. There's many, many mining operations. Mining is a function of cheap electricity. Any government that wants to attract miners needs to give people cheap electricity.
It's fascinating, this particular one. Mongolia is pretty inaccessible. I mean, I don't know if you've been there, but I watched this documentary, right? I mean, they built the train line that runs through Mongolia to Tibet or something like that, to China. Like thousands of people died building that thing because of the weather. It is almost inhospitable. It's fundamentally freezing as fuck. And so here you got these, like they call it illegal mines, essentially operating in this space. And China's going out there hunting for these guys to shut them down.
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese government is schizophrenic about mining and Bitcoin. On the one hand, it's bringing in a lot of money into China. I mean, all these Bitcoin that are produced in China and then being sold into the rest of the world is bringing in a lot of money into China. I think the Chinese government just wants to always be in control. And I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. We'll cover a couple more and then
I don't know if you saw, just a very interesting.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a guy called Justin Sun. Justin Sun is the founder of a protocol called Tron. And Justin Sun bid $5 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett.
I read about that today.
And he won the bid. And he started advertising and inviting his friends. And the rumor is that he canceled the lunch, saying that he had health complications. Ironically, he was live on Twitter, and with all these terrible health complications, he was live on Twitter and YouTube. But the speculation is that the Chinese government kind of said to him, hey, look, we're in a trade war with the US. And here comes this little guy, teaming up with probably the biggest US investor in the world and having lunch with him and publicizing it. And since then, he's gone very quiet about it. So, the Chinese government like to be in control, and they are in control of all their citizens.
Yeah, it's pretty scary what they're doing out there. I believe that when you walk down the streets of like Beijing, there's drones flying overhead. But we don't really know what those drones are doing. Facial recognition and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty scary, right? Just a quick one around this one. So, messaging app Line's crypto exchange goes live for 80 million users in Japan. I think it's interesting in the sense that if you think about, technology adoption period, and then you look at Facebook and the scale that Facebook managed to reach in terms of users and the time it took them to reach like 1 billion users as an example versus WhatsApp. And WhatsApp did it in like half the time. It was even less than half the time with only 9 staff, and they were doing like 1 billion messages a day or something crazy like that. And it's interesting, this article for me, looking strategically at it, is simply in the sense that, if you have a messaging app that's a crypto kind of exchange, it's quite interesting in terms of what it could promise around adoption of cryptocurrencies.
So messaging apps for me is the holy grail in terms of crypto. Why? Because it means that users can exchange money as quickly as they exchange emojis or messages between one another. Imagine I owed you $100. I'm in the US, you're in South Africa. Imagine I could just send it to you on WhatsApp. And that's really, for me, the holy grail in cryptocurrencies. Now, Facebook are talking about Libra. I mean, the biggest use case of Libra is going to be on WhatsApp. I have no doubt about it, where you can just send people money across borders, across the whole world. Telegram are launching their own gram or ton cryptocurrency, which is hopefully going to come out in October. Keen, which is a big app over here, it has its own cryptocurrency called the Kick, KRK. So for me, this is like the big play in cryptocurrencies, is people being able to send money to other people across, in a secure way, across borders with no transaction fees using WhatsApp. I mean, again, I say to you, Mac, imagine that I could send you money over WhatsApp and you'd have the money in your wallet. That's like the coolest thing that could ever happen.
It is very cool. What is your view on Libra? Because, at the time, I've got the Bitcoin price graph up here. I'm just going to go to the year. But if you look at the last major run that happened after our December 2017 run, and I asked myself, why is the market moving again? Why is it bullish? What's going on? And in essence, what was interesting for me was the fact that the biggest news piece at the time was Facebook Libra. And it just underscored a very simple principle about anything in adoption, marketing, and business is the power of story. And my view is, and feel free to tell me if I'm smoking my socks, but the idea would be, why is that such that is a term that never mind. I'm not getting into it. I'm talking to Ran. No, not yet. You can wait. Voice of reason, but but it lent credibility to the cryptocurrency space again. It was a big story. It was a big story, and it said people like Libra, and that
is the best thing that ever happened to cryptocurrency. Now, regardless whether you love or hate Libra, and whether you love or hate Facebook, Libra is the best thing that could have happened, and let me tell you why. So, number one, Libra has an amazing promise of allowing people across borders to send money to one another using Facebook or their related Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, at no transaction fees immediately. I mean, that's probably the biggest financial revolution the world's ever seen, when 2.2 billion people can now send money across to each other with no transaction fees. That said, the minute that they announced that, the US Congress, and since then many other governments, have called Libra into hearings about the threat that this poses to governments. I mean, can you imagine? Facebook is launching its own currency to 2.2 billion users. That will be the biggest currency used in the world. No one will be able to compete with that. Now, if you think about Bitcoin is the same thing as Libra, except the government can't call anyone in to answer questions because there's no one to call in. There's no creators, there's no founders, there's no central company. It's completely decentralized. And so if Libra does indeed launch, that's amazing because it will drive more people to use digital currencies, and that will flow to the entire crypto ecosystem. If it doesn't launch, it's the best advertisement in the world for Bitcoin, because what it says is you managed to shut down Facebook's plans, but you can never shut down Bitcoin's plans unless you shut down the internet. And so that's why I think Bitcoin is so powerful, because no matter what happens with any government in the world, they can't shut down Bitcoin.
Yeah. I also read recently, thanks to the show, that the European Central Bank is coming up with its own cryptocurrency to effectively, be option B, compared to the Libra, should Libra eventually become widespread in terms of availability and access.
I don't know if it's becoming instead of Libra. I think that many governments and banks and central banks around the world are in the midst of launching their own digital currencies to replace this idiotic thing that we have, what we call paper money. The fact that we walk around with a piece of paper and give it to people, and for some reason that paper lasts so long, and that it just sounds so antiquated in an age where you can just send around digital assets between one person and another. I mean, we know that the People's Bank of China, which is a Chinese central bank, is launching their own currency. We know that the Bank of India is working on a currency. And so I think many, many, many countries and banks are eventually going to migrate themselves to a completely digital world, a digital currency.
Yeah. It's an exciting time. Like I've got 2 young kids. I really do believe that they won't have a bank account, like ever. They'll use a messaging app.
I don't think that they'll, I don't know how young your kids are, but I think when they get older, they won't know what paper money is. And I think they'll laugh at us when we say we used to carry around paper money and silver coins, Well, and by the way, the coins aren't even real silver anymore. They're like a different metal because silver was too expensive. Like, Dad, what are you talking about? Like, we send money by transferring an asset over the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I look forward to those days. So that concludes part 1, the news. Right, so let's move on to part 2, Crypto Cat. Cue that sound. Ran, stop touching that cat.
I could say something, but right now I'm going to keep quiet.
So this is where we keep up with the pound dogs in the crypto world. We've covered John McAfee, Craig Wright. We covered, and today your crypto cat that we'd like you to lend your view on is this chap.
Who is this chap?
What's his name? James Jackson Palmer. He's the founder of Dogecoin. Have you not had him on your show?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I know who he is. Sorry. I know he is. Don't know much about him.
Ran, you've had everybody on your show. Come on.
I know, not this guy. I haven't had him on my show. Dogecoin was supposed to be a joke, and it's not a joke anymore. I don't have the market cap in front of me, but it's...
Let me get that for you.
Let me get pretty significant market cap these days.
It's number 15, I believe. Here we go.
Is it number 15? Yeah. I don't know him. Don't know anything about him. Yeah,
Jesus, it's not
probably
anymore. Oh, here it is, number 29.
Yeah, it's a $350 million market cap. I mean, that's nothing too shabby. Don't know anything about him. So unfortunately, going to ruin the party here and say, don't know.
Okay, well then you can comment on this then for me. What is Dogecoin? How do you pronounce it? Is it Dogecoin?
Dogecoin. So Dogecoin is it's a cryptocurrency. It's money essentially. It's money that you can transfer between people, and it's built in a decentralized way, very much similar to Bitcoin. Now, Dogecoin started as a joke, and I mean the mascot or the thing that people associate is the dog. And he's become a meme, like everyone talks about Dogecoin and the meme, and people that see this dogs that look similar to this say, hey, I bumped into Dogecoin on the streets, etc., etc.
So it started as how does a joke wind up being a $336 billion valued cryptocurrency? Please explain that to me.
I was about to say, Dogecoin has a very big and very loyal community. And the thing about money or any of these crypto assets is about a network effect. And a network effect is the more supporters that you have using money, the more people will use it. It's like, if you think about the US dollar, the reason why the US dollar is such an amazing currency, or one of the reasons why it's such an amazing currency, is because everybody uses it. And the more everybody uses it, the more everybody accepts it. And it's the same thing with Dogecoin. Dogecoin has a very big community, and this community are quite loyal. And so that makes it quite a cool cryptocurrency in terms of usability and stuff like that.
Speaking of community, turns out that he's actually left the coin community. Let me just move this for you.
So that's typical of decentralized currencies. These, remember, are all open source projects. Now, what an open source project means is that nobody owns it, and anybody can use the code, steal the code, abuse the code, add to the code, etc. That's the beauty of this industry. So even when founders leave, protocols continue to grow. Even when founders run out of money, protocols continue to grow. And that's the beauty of this thing. And that's why Bitcoin is so successful, because it belongs to everybody. No one knows who the founder is. No one actually cares. It actually belongs to all of us. We're all equal shareholders in Bitcoin.
I suppose it's a little bit similar to Satoshi and Bitcoin, right?
Exactly. You don't need the founder. The founder just launches the protocol. And then, essentially what you can say at that point is your work is done here.
Well, I mean, it's a nice legacy to have, right? I mean, I'd love a brown coin.
The brown coin. You can launch one, the Matt Brown coin.
Matt Brown Show coin. Here we go, guys. Yeah. You can email me at hello@mattbrownshow.com and I'll send you a couple of coins for free. So I want to move on to the next thing here, which is called The Risk. And this segment is really about helping viewers and listeners of the show really understand from your perspective, being at the epicenter of this whole space, what is the single biggest risk in the world of cryptocurrency today?
It's so funny that you say that, because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking to myself, what could put an end to Bitcoin now, or really, really, really take the market down? Now, bear in mind, there's a lot of components here. The first component here is building technology. The second component is the network effect, or how many people are using the technology. And right now, I would say that there's very few things that could ruin Bitcoin. We know the technology is sound. We know it's safe, it's unhackable, it's not bugged, it's not buggy, etc., etc. We know that even if governments bring in regulation, they can't shut down Bitcoin. And even if they do bring in regulation, it kind of makes Bitcoin more wanted and more wanted. It increases the demand. So I'm not sure what the biggest threat to blockchain technology is, except that the technology may not be able to handle the volume in its current state. And they are working on what they call off-chain or side-chain solutions to handle the volume. So I think the biggest risk to cryptocurrency is actually its own success. That if Bitcoin becomes adopted by everybody all of a sudden, it simply can't handle the volume.
Yeah, I had that thought the other day. I mean, the thing that keeps me up at night, employing 20 odd people and, looking to expand into other markets next year is this financial system that currently exists. And hyperinflation, we know about. I mean, the thing genuinely ran. Like, I worry about this stuff, and I scour BBC.
As you should. You're a business person.
Yeah, man. And it's like, and I get so much anxiety, right, when I read articles around tremors. I call them like financial tremors, where it's like, well, there's a warning, and what's the Fed doing with its interest rates? And I think they're meeting this week, and they're going to drop it by like 2 basis points or something like that. But anyway, whatever the case is, like, we all know a crash is coming, right? And for me, from what I understand, is that because the US economy is hyperinflated its currency so much, so has the rest of the world, in order to meet, to effectively trade and not outprice themselves. And so, the real pessimists in this story will say that when this next collapse comes, it will be far worse than 2008. It will decimate the financial system. And some people are subscribing to that idea. And so if that was an accurate viewpoint, and people lost all faith in the financial system, their pensions were wiped out, savings were wiped out, everything had no value. And there would only be 2 options. One would be gold, right? We go back to gold as a form of trading. And the other one, which is probably more likely given the fact that we have such profound technology access today, is blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, etc. But as you say, if it can't handle the scale, then where does that leave us when we can't draw cash out of ATMs?
So one is that they are resolving the scale problem. There's a lot of very smart people resolving the scale problem. So let's park that and let's assume that that's going to happen. I'm not as much of a prophet of doom as you are at the moment, from what you've said. I think that there are a whole lot of issues. I think the biggest issue is negative interest rates, which is coming up in the States. In other words, that means that you're going to pay the banks for them to hold your money. That kind of sounds like the craziest notion in the world. Unfortunately, there are no other tools that the governments can use anymore, because they've kind of all out of ammo or arrows in the arsenal. So yes, I believe that there's a correction coming. I want to hedge myself against the correction. Like you say, there's 2 options. One is gold and one is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a $200 billion market at the moment, or just under $200 billion. Gold is an $8 trillion market. I believe that I want to be in Bitcoin when this happens, because if it only becomes a 10% of the gold market today, then Bitcoin will go up 4 times from where it is today. And that's where I want to be. And so, again, without being a financial advisor and without giving your viewers financial advice, I believe that everybody should have a very small part of their portfolio in this asset, because if things do go wrong, it is, as far as I know, one of 2 assets. Another thing is, when you talk about gold is easily seized, except the jewelry gold, but it's easily seized by governments and central banks. How would they seize your Bitcoin? They can't. And so the real safe asset here is Bitcoin.
Yeah, great point. Hi there, guys. So Crypto Kungfu is proudly sponsored by Prime Health and ZA Nootropics. If you're listening to me right now, I know that you, like me, want to get the most out of your day. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a crypto investor, business leader, or simply a regular guy or gal like me trying to build something of value for yourself, you need what I have, and that is a customized mix of premium, high-performance smart supplements and adaptogens from Prime Health. This stuff is the bomb. So these products have helped me to make every day a success and have helped me improve my brain health, cognition, and overall stress management. ZA Nootropics are ready to help you too. So simply head on over to zanootropics.co.za and browse the online store of amazing smart supplements. And I highly recommend the Lion's Mane Mushroom. It will blow your mind. But whatever you buy, enter the code NINJA20 at checkout and you'll receive a 20% discount on your order. I cannot recommend these guys highly enough. So go there now. That's zanootropics.co.za. Cool. Let's move on to audience Q&A. So basically, guys who have been listening to the show have been going to the Map Round Show Facebook page and dropping us questions on Messenger. I've got this one from a chap called Desmond, and I'm just going to play it to you, Ran, and let's see what he needs help with. Although it's not playing. That's weird.
Maybe he doesn't need help.
You know what? He is just a master of not needing help. Okay, well, for some reason, none of these voice notes will play. Okay, well, we'll have to come back to that, guys, on the next show. Or I'll mail the questions to Ran. And Ran, if you wouldn't mind answering them, that would be great.
No problem. Anytime, my friend.
Cool, man. No worries. So trading the market, we're going to wrap this show up. So Ran, you've got $1,000 to play with. And we can't buy every altcoin out there. So what do we do here? So we've got $1,000 short on Bitcoin over a week, and that's from Tone Vase. We've got to put another grand into the pot. Help us make money, make the right choice.
Tone Vase is always so negative and always so short that I think he's actually becoming shorter in real life from all these shorts that he's taking. Every time I see him, he loses about a centimeter. Look, trading is a function of two things. Trading is a function of what your time horizon and your risk appetite is. And without knowing that, it's very difficult to decide what to do with the money. I'm a long-term, if you want to call it trader. I think I'm much more a long-term investor. And for me, I'd say right now you need to look at two things. A, you need to be in Bitcoin. If the price goes down to 8,000, so what? We're thinking this thing's going to go up to 100,000 or 200,000 or $300,000 per Bitcoin. And then no one's going to care whether you bought it for 10,000, 8,000, 8,800. If you're trading until next week, then I'm not your guy. If you're trading in the long term, you got to ask yourself, which of the protocols are going to get the most usage? And we can see that, protocols like Ethereum, EOS, Tron, obviously Bitcoin, those are all ones that you should be investing in. So generally what I'd say is, if you're not an active trader, and I'm certainly not an active trader, I don't trade in and out of things. It's not the way I trade. I choose probably the top 10 protocols. And I invest into a weighted average portfolio of those 10, and then just hold it for a long time. Okay.
So what's our trade? Are we going to buy the top 10 altcoins?
Yeah, buy the index. Buy the top 10 index.
Buy now. But look, Ran, thanks so much for being on the show, dude. It's been an absolute privilege to have you back. Guys, if you do want to bring your questions in, we'll make sure we send Facebook a scathing email about making sure their voice notes do work.
You know what? Let's do this. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to see the progress that you've made personally. I remember the guy that I dealt with about 2 years ago, and I've read a lot about what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. I think you show all the qualities of tenacity that an entrepreneur requires. And you mentioned to me earlier today, before we started, you mentioned to me that you still have no idea what you're doing. And I want to say that I've built a big business and I sold it, and I don't have any idea I didn't have any idea about what I was doing then, and I have no idea what I'm doing now. And I guess that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. But I know that there are probably many questions that your viewers have got. And so what I am willing to do is to put aside another hour or half an hour, whenever you want, and let's call it an AMA. You can ask me anything. We could probably do it live and get the guys to call in. And I'm very, very, very happy to answer anybody's crypto-related questions, because I know that there's a lot of interest and a lot of uncertainty in this place, and people need as much help and advice as they can get.
Well, that's where we're on the same page. It's all about helping, ordinary people understand this space, right? So I really do hope that, people do, get to a point where they can really understand the space and the risks involved, but also the opportunities, because it's never as bad or as good as what people say.
That's correct. You got it.
Ran Neu-Ner, everybody. Thanks for being on the show, dude. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Matt Brown.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out the Matt Brown Show. I hope you found incredible value on this channel and on this particular episode. If you haven't done so yet, why don't you hit that subscribe button right now? Pound that subscribe button, and that will allow you to get access to more content as it becomes available. And don't forget to access and approve notifications. So when we do release new content, you will be notified.